Are you feeling stressed out? Perhaps you're being haunted by day terrors or worse, night terrors. Bust through that anxiety with your free guided hypnotic meditation at guidedhypnotic.com. Go over to guidedhypnotic.com and bust your anxiety once and for all. So, sponsored by me.
Now I was doing fine until you went into that deep voice. Now I have anxiety.
Well, see, it's designed, it's how I keep work. Yeah.
I'm going to go on your site. I was fine until I heard his voice.
I was feeling great. And then all of a sudden, oh no. All right. So it was such an amazing opportunity and gift. Thank you so much for coming on. We've known each other for a good few decades. And you
at least 20 years.
At least. And you gave me my start in the music industry. And before I introduce you, I just want to remind you, I don't know if you remember the first time we met and the circumstances that what was happening when we met.
I'm going to guess. Was a family member involved?
No, it was at the studio.
It was at the studio?
Yep. So you came, when I started there, we'll share the story. I want to do the intro in a minute. When I started there, you were on the road with the with the Beach Boys.
Yeah. Okay.
Close enough. No, you're on the road with the Beach Boys, and I was interning, and you came in and you were like, ready to just start working, and you grabbed me as an intern. I was like 21 or whatever. And you were like, hey, go grab my Korg M1 that's in the studio and bring it upstairs. And I was like, okay, you're like all eager to do a great job. And I put it on my shoulder. I start walking it up, and I crack the back of the keyboard on the stair, like the top of the ceiling on the way up. And I was mortified, trying to make a good impression. And the first thing I did was dent your Korg.
It's funny you said that, Doug, because I have here the bill for that.
Oh, right.
and with interest, and the Korg was maybe worth $500 back then, but with interest, you owe me $27,000.
That's fair. Yeah. Well, okay. So now, no further ado, Richie Cannata, the man of intrigue. And I'm not going to do this all verbatim because it's a lot. And I want to get into having an incredible conversation with you. But I posted when we started here, everybody, I think, on the planet knows several of your solos and can hum them verbatim. And of course, New York State of Mind, being New Yorkers, is one of the most popular, and you did that incredible video for YouTube. But oh my gosh, so you played with Billy, you were the original band, you played all those records, you toured the world, you changed the world musically, and what's so interesting, you didn't just play saxophone.
Right.
You played keyboards, you played percussion, you sang, you did so much. Accordion.
Yeah.
Oh my, unbelievable. So you're from New York. I want to read this, but I want to get into talking. Do you mind if we just get in chatting? Like,
I'm down with whatever you want to do.
Awesome. So
we got to say that you and I go back so long ago with Cove City Sound Studios.
Yep.
And I gave you and you gave me your first recording session with a great group called Antigone Rising that are still out there playing. And I remember that day, and it was like it was a great day for you to be broken in to this great studio, my studio, and this great band, and we still have a relationship with them. And that's fantastic, right?
Yeah, so do I. I mean, and one of the things, so worked with Billy Joel. I mean, was formed. I mean, you were the Billy Joel band. You and Doug Stegmeyer, Liberty DeVito,
Russell Chavez, of which now we have the Lords of 52nd Street.
Which I've been so blessed to see you guys again.
Yeah, you saw us recently.
Yeah, and it's so once we're back out on able to go out, I know you guys will be out, just spreading the love, and it's so amazing that even seeing the crowds there who come see you, young and old. It wasn't just any demographic. It was young kids. I remember there's a kid sitting up front, like he had to have been 20-something years old, and was like stalking you. It was amazing.
It was. I kind of remember that night. I really do. It's been great for us. Good music, Doug, and you know this because you're a musician and an engineer, that it will prevail, and after all these years, it's still very popular. Good music. You listen to Beatle records, just listen to Springsteen, you listen to our music with Billy. And that's the sell, the heartbeat of making music. And for all these years, it's been 40 plus years that we made these records, and still we sell out venues with this music.
It's incredible. So let's talk about, I mean, one of the purposes of this show is talking about reinventing and dealing with challenges, and how and you have several to share, like miraculous. But to set the tone, how did you get into music? How did you start playing with Billy? Like, that's got to have, I mean, I'm not sure that's something that everybody may know about.
Well, it was interesting. I had got a call from the NYIT recording studio, New York Institute of Technology, here on Long Island, to do a recording session for, and I believe it was for Sesame Street. And the session was called The Meter, the Leader, and the Gram. I went in to play saxophone for them. And at that time, Al Stegmeyer was the engineer. He was the brother of Doug Stegmeyer, the bass player that Billy had just hired with Liberty, maybe a month or two before. He had said to me, well, my brother just joined Billy Joel, and they're looking for a sax player that plays keyboards. And I said, well, I do that. So they came to see me play somewhere out in Huntington, Long Island on Route 110. And I believe it was Liberty and Billy and Doug and Brian Ruggles, I think, even came. And they said, you fit the bill. We want you to, come and play with us. So that's how my audition went. And that's how I started up with Billy. The next thing I know, I was at Ultrasound Studios in Hempstead watching them record the basic tracks for Turnstiles.
Wow. So was Billy already a name when you joined, or like what was his notoriety at that stage?
He had a Piano Man record, which was a huge success for him.
Okay.
So yes, to answer your question, Doug, he did have a name. However, then he had a sophomore record that didn't do that well. And he went through, you'd have to get him on your show to ask him all the questions, because I could answer the questions, but it's only my opinion what happened. Who knows what happened with that second record, but it didn't do that well. So the next record with Columbia was the Turnstiles record. He had moved out to California. He had decided to come back to New York, to the East Coast, and he found myself, Doug, and Liberty, and Russ Javers, and Howie Emerson also was a guitar player back then, to do the Turnstiles record.
And then that was like when magic started to really kind of occur. So when you guys all got together, what was that like when you started playing together? Was it like instant glue? How did that work out?
It really was. We never, ever rehearsed. There was never, ever rehearsal. Sound check was the rehearsal. And it was like a bunch of 20-year-olds with all this energy. Liberty was freaking crazy with energy. Doug was the backbone, playing bass and watching Billy's left hand. I played all the extra overdubs, which were the keyboards and from harp to flute to soprano to tenor to alto. And then there was some guitar parts. Not a lot of guitar parts in the beginning, It was a piano player's band.
Right.
It was Billy, and I filled the holes. So the energy was absolutely fantastic. It was unbelievable.
So I know you have tons of road stories, and I'm sure some of them are not, good for this show. But what happened when I met you? So like, obviously it's a big gap of time. You left the band. What was like the course in which you started getting into studio ownership while you were still playing? Like, you never gave up playing. You just started changing your focus.
Sherlene and I wanted to look into the future, because a musician's life could be you're doing 120 miles an hour, then you're doing 0.
Right.
So we were looking at real estate, we were looking at businesses, and I said, let's just do this. I was going into the city where there were very big, proper recording studios. There was really nothing on Long Island that was the size of Cove City. So we decided to do that, and I did that with Clay Hutchinson, who had a studio called Kingdom Sound in Syosset. He closed that, and we did Cove City together. So it was my plan to do something other than just play all the time and be out on the road, but to have another source of a revenue source, which was Cove City. And our first client was basically Tommy Shaw from Styx, and then I had joined him as well. And then Taylor Dane came in, and then the rest is history. We had a hit, and it was just a string of hits, and we had a huge run. As of right today, I just came back from the studio today. It's been an incredible run.
Yeah, I mean, I visited, I think it was maybe 4 years ago. Heidi and I came, and it was probably more than that because I don't think we had Ellie yet. So it's been a while. And we came and saw the studio, and it was so great just to come back into the space and feel the vibe and the smell of it, and just everything was, I mean,
It is that.
such an identity.
It is that. It really is. And we're very fortunate to have been there for 37 years now. It's crazy. But we decided to do that. Shirlene and I said, let's do that. And we bought a house and we bought a couple of pieces of real estate. And we kind of got tied into Long Island and really dug in. And we've been here and we love it here. And it's been fantastic for us.
And so much so that you won the Long Island Musician Hall of Fame.
Right. We what had happened was, it's a great story, and people should know this, is that you know, we are the Billy Joel Band. We are that, with the Lords of 15th Second Street. And Doug Stegmeyer passed away. So Andy Gilmartin, we were saying hi to Andy before, had said in his life, always loved Doug, knew Doug, and wanted to help Doug, always. Doug passed away. He continued to help the Stegmeyer family, then wanted to get Doug and the rest of the band into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. He orchestrated it. It was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer, you know. We're probably, you know, 150 million records sold into this industry. So where are these guys? Who are they? Well, we're right here. We're on Long Island. So we got inducted. We got inducted by Dennis McNamara, who was the head program director at WLIR, and Carol Silva, who was one of the greatest journalists here in New York. And they inducted us into the Hall of Fame with Billy's blessing. It was absolutely fantastic.
That's amazing. So how did you, like, get your way into, like, so when I met you, you were with the Beach Boys. Like, how do you find your way? Are people just seeking you out? Because, I mean, you have such a unique sound. Like, everyone kind of knows Rico's playing, and your talent is, you know, obviously, you know, godly. But how did you find your way navigating into those other environments?
Well, there was a lot of a heavy profile of me with Billy's band, with what I did. So people knew what I was doing. The Beach Boy connection was interesting because we opened up for the Beach Boys. Okay. Carl Wilson loved us, loved Billy. And he loved what we were doing. He saw my participation in Liberty's and Doug's participation with the band. And so when he had come through Cove City, I was doing other things. This was the Beach Boy connection. He had come through Cove City to record with Max Weinberg from Springsteen's band. And he came in and said, you know, Richie, we'd like you to join the Beach Boys. I said, well, I don't know if I really want to do that. I've been working with Styx. He handed me a cassette. He goes, learn these songs and meet us at the New York State Fair the next weekend. And then it was 15 years of playing with the Beach Boys.
And it had so many opportunities because we made some records with Al and Matt, and that was such a, you know, amazing opportunity. And you always brought in some of the coolest music, the coolest bands. Lib had had a project he was doing. You Inspire Gyra. You're doing all this amazing stuff. Right.
It's you know, it starts with you have to have the bone tone. You know, you've got to be something that doesn't sound like the guy playing Waiting Next Door. You know, you've got to have that. And what I learned was to be myself. I learned to have my sound and do what I do. You know, I studied Coltrane, I studied Charlie Parker, but they were Coltrane and they were Charlie Parker. I was me. So there's a lot of people that sought after what I was doing. And so I got a lot of calls. I just needed to, at some point, pick and choose. Then I decided that I wanted to do it all. You know, I wanted to play with the Beach Boys. I wanted to go with Tommy Shaw. I wanted to do Phoebe Snow. I went to Africa with Rita Coolidge. I produced one of her records. You know, then I did the whole country thing with Charlie Daniels and Vince Gill and all those people. I just wanted to, and you know me, Doug. I sleep 3 hours a day and I play the rest.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Well, and that's something I really appreciate and love about you is your love of music, and your flexibility in music is incredible. But you would play, like it's a little known secret, you'd play on anybody's record who came into the studio. It was almost like a little benefit, like it was kind of an unheard of little secret that if you did anything at Cove and Richie was in town, you would almost be offering, let me play on it. I got some great ideas. And you added so much value to so many people's records. You just made so many people happy just by doing that.
Thank you. Well, you didn't know, while you were engineering downstairs, I was in my office with them saying, you can't leave unless I play on your record.
Right. even if it's on the edited floor, I still got to have a part on there.
Yeah. But it's because I just love what I do. It's been my whole life since I've been 4 or 5 years old. And it's a gift. It's a gift of God. I get my antennas right. It comes in and I give it back. You know?
Amen. So when we talk about that, was saxophone your first instrument, or were you playing something else first? Piano.
Piano. Yeah. Piano was, and I was really amazed by it because you could see the keyboard. You know, you could touch the notes and hit a C, you can hit a D, and that was really great. But I wanted to play trombone.
Oh.
And so now I went to school and they said, we had to try to play trombone. And the director said, Mr. Britton said to me, we don't need trombone players, we need clarinet players. So I got a clarinet. I started to play clarinet. I went, wow, I really like this. So that became my axe, being a woodwind player.
Well, right. And not only that, you play flute as well, which I know it's not a reed instrument, but I guess it is enough similarity that you can play that as well, but you're pretty versed.
It comes with the nature of the beast of playing a woodwind. You know, my main axe is tenor saxophone, but I do play baritone, I do play alto, I definitely play soprano. I play a lot of soprano and flute. So any one of those, I get a call from any one of those, I could get through the gig.
And I think actually on one of our songs, you played baritone.
Right.
You did a baritone solo, which was
right.
It's huge. Like so.
I get a lot of calls for baritone. I really do. Yeah. Do you remember John Michel?
Of course. Yeah.
I just played on their record, Brothers Keeper, right? And one of the solos I did, and one of the parts was baritone.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know.
So one of the things that I also really appreciate you, and obviously it came off pretty well with the talent, is you would share, because I don't know if I knew you when Aaron was, like, I think he was already kind of a youngin'. He wasn't born, but you shared stories how you would just put the bassinet on the piano and you would just play and play.
You remember that. Okay, the story, you're really close. There was no bassinet. I took him on the keyboard when he came home from the hospital, and I played on that piano I have downstairs, on my grand piano, my beautiful Yamaha piano, which my father got me, and mother. I put him right on the keyboard. And my mother-in-law was here at the time, and Shalene was there. They were in the kitchen. They came in and went, what? You know?
You could have rolled off.
I mean, if it would have fell, I would have probably not had the story to tell about my son.
Well, you know? Well, or it might be a different one.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Well, I mean, you're right.
It happened at birth. Well, I was 4 days after birth.
Wow, it's amazing. So, as you're going through the stuff, I ended up leaving. You know, the peak of my career was when Napster came out. So I found a new way to, I decided to help people make music of their lives, not just make incredible music. That was kind of the angle I took. How did you handle and what was going through your mind when you saw all those studios closing and the record companies closing and all of that craziness? Where were you at that time? Who were you playing with? Because I don't think you were with the Beach Boys anymore at that point.
No, let me think who I was with. Might have been my country run, but I was terrified because it was like music that we knew it before, was that you'd go into a proper recording studio like Cove City or all the rest of them that have been around the world. You had a bunch of guys in a room, you made music, there was a record company that gave you money to do that, there was a percentage to be shared, and you sold this thing called an album, right? Then there was a cassette, or then it was a CD. Then it was like people were stealing the music through these
peer-to-peer, the MP3s, yeah.
Yeah, it was like having a whole warehouse full of, I like your shirt, right? The whole warehouse full of those shirts like that, and you just went in and grabbed one. And that's where our music was. Our music, we're in this, and people would just take it, and they was taking it for free. So it tanked the business. And it was very scary because it was trickle down. Without budgets, there was not records to be made, there was nothing to be sold. So it was a very, very scary thing, which is still is today.
For sure. How did you adjust at that? Like, what did you change? Because when I was leaving, we had already switched to Pro Tools. So there wasn't, that was a learning curve for me because I learned on tape. I learned how to cut tape, and we were doing, if we were going to cut a drum, thing, a basics together, it was cutting one performance into another and kind of hoping for the best.
Sidebar question. Did you work with Dan Hetzel?
Yep.
Or, yes, Dan Hetzel.
Dan was my main guy, and then like I ended up also like doing a lot with like Rick Kerr, and that was
Bobby Cadway was around.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Dan Hetzel's in Florida somewhere.
Yeah. I speak to him often.
I hope he's watching it. This would be nice.
Yeah. Well, we'll have him on.
So it was what we offer. Okay, and we've kind of touched upon this more than once. Music is from the heart. It's a heartbeat. It's, you cut me, I bleed. What's happened to music these days, unfortunately, is all digitally connected with dots to try to make the curve.
Right.
The curve in real life is a sound curve, and that's real life, that's analog. So what we offer is the real estate still, in our studio, or people that have studios, not home studios, but the people in the room. So I could see you, I could feel you, smell you, you said before, the whole thing of what it takes to be together, what it takes to be together to make music, because that's important. So I still have got that. And young kids, young 18 to 25-year-old kids come to the studio and go, my dad's collection, why do these records sound like this? Well, because we all set up in a room and we played. And that's why we survived, because we still do that.
Yeah, for sure. It's so important because while I know you have all the tech of the Pro Tools and all that. So if people know that, they can, but you also still have all of the great mic pre's and the microphones and the, the live room and the compressors that aren't digital and the, all that outboard gear that even just part of that process of plugging the microphones in and moving the mic and just being in there sets an energy. And not to get too woo-woo-y, but I believe that the room is being blessed even at that stage when the preparation, it's like the prayer, it's like the foreplay before the actual, event.
But it is that, we had touched upon, you could get a keyboard and there'll be a sound in it. You can buy the keyboard, I can have it, you can have it, and anywhere in the planet they can have that sound. But when you're talking about placing a microphone in front of a speaker or a microphone in front of a kick drum, now that's your sound.
Yep.
That session is going to be unique to that alone. And then the snare drum, and then the cymbals, the overheads, and the bass sound, the guy's bass. It's not going to be a sample. It's going to be a great sounding bass. Saxophone, keyboards, all that. That's music. That's really art.
And it's crazy when people don't realize how much of an art there is even just to microphone placement. I remember, a couple of times, just for fun, Dan and I would be like, hey, you know what? Let's record something and not use any EQ. Let's do everything. Let's shape everything by mic placement. So if we need more or less of a tone, let's do it with the mic, not by dialing it in on the EQ. And it makes a big difference.
I have a young engineer, John Arbuckle, who works for me now, is a young man with an old soul. He's like that. He could get, tomorrow we're doing a session with two opera people, and we're going to, with acoustic piano, acoustic guitar, and it's going to be all about, well, what are we doing tomorrow? We're not doing anything till they get there. The female vocalist might say, I want to stand over here where there's more light. I want to stand closer to the, and that's music, bro. That's what it's all about. So I have an engineer like that now that's doing that. And all my guys are like that because it's trickled down for me.
Right. Well, of course. And to have that, the resources there, like it's like a kid in a candy store, especially now because there's so few opportunities where you could open up a mic closet and go, which one do I want to use? And, look at these mic pre's. Do I want to do Neve or do I want to do the Focusrite? Or let's just use the SSL, which was so funny. At one time, SSL was like
like you still work at the studio.
Oh, it was so, dude, that was such one of the most, like, it was an era of my life that was, you know, I would never change. One of the biggest blessings I ever have. And I pretty much, I talk, you know, pretty regularly with Dan, and I'm still in contact with almost everybody there. Like, we were a family. We went through so much.
And we had success. It was an industry. There was money to be made to give us more free time to do the more music. So there was that. We were tight. It was an amazing time for us. It really was.
So you're still playing, but there was a gap. You made it through the Napster and all of that. You stayed open as a studio. You figured all of that out, and then you had a challenge that actually had nothing to do with anything. It had everything to do with life. And I don't know how much you want to share on that, but I think it's powerful because that shows, it's a testament of who you are and why you're here. Because you disappeared for a little bit.
Yeah, right after getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, I had a backache. And it progressed into, they couldn't find out what it was, but it turned out to be cancer. So I had 2 tumors on my spine, and then it spread to my whole body, lymphoma. So it took me out for 6 months. I was in hospital out here in Long Island. And it basically, I had to learn how to write my name, play the saxophone again. I had to learn how to walk. I was to tear a sugar package. It was an awful time. And my family saved my life, Charlene and Carol Ann and Aaron. And so it was a long road back for me, about a year where I couldn't do anything. 6 months actually in a hospital was pretty crazy. But what you talk about, your motivational life, is that between the eyeballs was something telling me that I wasn't going yet, because I was pretty much written off. My oncologist said I was the sickest patient she ever had that recovered.
Wow.
I don't know. Thank God. You know, God had a reason for me to come back and do this. And I came back stronger. Because I appreciated life and what God had given me, which is my musical ability.
Wow. So what were some of the thoughts going through? I know you had that thought in your head, it's not your time, but how did you keep the energy going? Like, what were you thinking on? Obviously you had your family and all that, but was there an underlying outcome, something that you wanted to do, something that was pulling you out or pulling you forward?
Music. I wanted to play again. I realized how much that meant to me. And I swore to my family, and chemo is crazy. Chemo makes you nuts. And I cried a lot. And I remember crying to my family going, I will play the saxophone again someday. And they went, oh, sure, Richie. Yeah, okay, you will. Yeah. It didn't look like I was going to. But I said to myself, I will. Once I opened up my big mouth and said that, I said, okay, now I got to do this. So it was basically breath by breath. You know, I had to, like I said, it was a big day for me in the hospital when he brought a putty full of marbles, and I pulled a marble out, and it was like, wow, this is fantastic. I can actually use my fingers again, you know? And I started there, breath by breath, step by step.
And did you have your saxophone in the hospital, like, to start practice, like just even working? No, that was all when you got home.
Doug, I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair, you know, so that's mine. Don't worry about that. I was in a wheelchair, so I couldn't do anything. When I finally got home, I'll tell you what happened, which was really interesting. Julio Fernandez from Spyro Gyra, and I played with the Spyro Gyra guys. I'm not in that band, but I played with all those guys. They're good friends of mine. He came to my house with a new acoustic guitar that he just got, and he said, go get your horn and play. Well, I was in a walker at that point, right? So we were out on the porch. So I went inside my house, and I wasn't strong enough to open the zipper on my tenor saxophone. So I went back outside, and I was crying because chemo made you cry, right? And I said, I can't do it. He goes, go back in the house and flip the soprano saxophone case open. You can do that. So I went back in the house, and I did that, and I brought my soprano out, and I put it between my legs, and I blew a little bit, and that was the first note back.
Wow.
And then I had to relearn how to play it. I had to learn my eye-hand coordination. I had to learn to press. You know, I couldn't snap my fingers. That was one thing that was real important, to try to snap my fingers. I couldn't snap them because I couldn't bring them together. That's how crazy it was.
So were you listening to a lot of music while you were like in those conditions, or was it just music in your head?
It was more music in my head. It wasn't a place for me to listen to music. I was in a hospital bed, and I didn't want to put earbuds in. It was forefront music, but it was more important that I took a breath.
Right.
Another one. And I took another one. So it was that. It was breath by breath. So it was very, very difficult. So the music was there, and I knew someday I would get back to it. And then, you know, of course, I'd be in a hospital, and I would hear myself if the TV was on or something, or if they had a radio or something. I can't remember, but I remember hearing my music being played, and I felt that I could do that again. You know, I could really do that again. And through the love of Andy Gilmartin, who helped me, and Charlene and Carol Ann, Aaron, Julio, just a pocket full of people. My family never saw me because I was too far gone. And so I didn't want, my brother and sister didn't really see me. And I was okay with that. And so no documentation, no pictures, but I got through it. Look, check me out, bro. You know?
And, you know, making the joke earlier, like you have a painting in the attic, like you look younger now, like you never seem to age much anyway, but it's incredible how amazing you do look.
I gotta say something, because you're a motivational person, speaker, and lecturer. If I had a picture, I remember scaring myself how awful I was, how much weight I lost, but the thing is, you can, with motivation, with the desire to live and to do it, you can come back. But you have got to be in control over that desire. You can't go buy a box of it somewhere. You can't say, oh, I'm going out to a hardware store, I'm going to go get some motivation spirit, I'll be right back. You've got to have that. You need, your audiences, what you do is so important.
Well, thank you. And really what I'm doing is exposing what it takes and you're proof positive, like you're sharing it. And especially since it sounds like there were some who kind of were not writing you off, but they were so, you know, living in that state of fear, and the doctors. And when you hear a nurse say something like, this is the worst I've ever seen, I'm sure, you know, out of love, you know, they're wanting to, it must be scary, like to even say their goodbyes, even if they're not literally saying goodbye, and how that could affect your psyche. And you did not let that.
Right. To make everything perfectly clear, nobody actually said that to me while I was sick.
Right.
They told me that after I got better.
Good. Thank God.
That's when the oncologist told me that. But, you know, you could look at someone when they come into the room and they would see me, and I look at their eyes, and they would go,
right. Yeah.
and they go, how do I look? They go, great. You look great. And like Papillon, remember that movie Papillon?
Yep.
They put their heads out, and I go, how do I look? Oh, you look great. You know, but it wasn't that, and I knew that. But it didn't bother me. All this is just a bag of bones, bro. It's nothing. My spirit was there, and my closeness to God, and I got really close, and I was okay to pass and go to the other side. You know, I really was all right with that, because it was really beautiful to see that, because I wanted to get out of all this that's around us. This is all BS around it.
Right.
It doesn't mean anything. Your spirit is really what's number one. And when I got comfortable with that, it was okay to pass. It really was like, and then I got better. Then I pushed death away again.
Right.
Said, no, sorry, I'm a little afraid of you again.
You're right.
Go away. I'm going back on this side. But while you know, you realize that only thing left is your spirit, and you get comfortable. It's really okay, because everyone is going to be visited by death someday. Everyone. Yep. We all are. And I just said, I had a great run, bro. You know me a long time, Doug. I had a great run. This has been a great thing. I've been on all these great tours and records, and my family, and it was done. Okay, let's get on with it. What's going on this other side, you know? But then it got pushed back to me when they said to me, you beat the cancer. It's gone. I said, oh, remission? They go, no, it's gone. So it's a miracle. I'm a walking miracle.
Wow.
Gone.
It's amazing.
I'm coming up to 5 years in August. Yep.
God bless you, brother. So what was your first gig or your first time when you were feeling like, okay, like you're playing, like you're back?
So I was told that I couldn't touch the saxophone for about a year, right? So I'm out of the hospital probably 2 months, and I got a call from a band to play at Mulcahy's, right?
Uh-huh.
It was a Billy Joel tribute band by Mike and the Big Shot guys, right? And I said, you can't do it. And I said, I'm doing it. And my wife said, you can. I said, I'm doing it. And I said, you know what else? I'm driving there. And I said, no, you're not. You can't. So I got my dearest friend Brad got in the car with me. My wife got in the car with me, Caroline, and I drove to Mulcahy's, barely got on the stage and played.
Wow.
And what I do? I cried.
Okay. But that was just residual.
Yeah. But,
wow. They must have been so like amazed. It must have been such a powerful evening.
It was very, very, very powerful. And I appreciate Mike asking me to do it, and all the Big Shot guys. They were great. They were friends of mine that got me to do the gig, and I was happy to do that, you know. And I'm more happier to play now with the Lords of 52nd Street, of course, because those are my boys. You know?
Right. No, of course. But that's so when did that happen? How long, like before you got sick, was Lords, were you doing that yet? Or was that post?
It was the Lords, the night of the Hall of Fame induction was the first time the Lords played. I had put the band together, right? And Liberty and Russell Javers joined this band that I put together. That was the first time the Lords played, right? Now, at that induction, Ron Delsner, remember Ron Delsner?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He was there getting inducted as well.
Oh, cool.
He saw the band. He called me and Andy into his office, followed me and said,
I got an idea.
Yeah. I got an idea. You guys, you played this music. It's all you guys on this record. You guys, as the Lords of 52nd Street, should go out there. So we said, yeah, let's start doing it. So now the Lords were getting booked, right? I got sick.
Oh.
And all the guys said, well, let's just get you better. And they waited a year for me.
Wow.
I could cry again.
Pardon?
I could cry again.
Yeah, well, it's clear. I mean, you guys, the synergy that you all have is obvious. Like, you know, there's a history there. And you all look so at home. Like, it's like you're just like, you just know each other so well. You play off of each other, the banter that you guys have. It's an amazing show.
It really is. It's fun. And again, what prevails? Good music. And we were the guys on those records.
Yep.
So we got all the stories, you know, with Phil Ramone and Billy and Doug and Liv, Russell, myself. We have the stories. And we're alive. We're the only guys who can really tell you what really happened during those great records.
Yeah.
You know? So
and did you have to sign any NDAs? Any no stories that you can't share?
First of all, nobody in the band can actually write. And reading's an option too.
Fair enough.
No, there wasn't any of that back then. We cut our deals with Billy and management, and we just lived through them, you know. And the biggest pay, which is like the credit card commercial. This is all priceless stuff. We are those guys. We're still alive. We're still making the music, and along with the friendship and the solidarity that we have with each other, you can't beat it, bro.
Well, and the great news is, I know that, you know, for whatever fallout that you and Billy and the band and all had, there was healing, because while I was working there, Billy was back recording at Cove.
That's right. I had no falling out with Billy. That was the best part about it. Was there has been a little bit of rumor that why did Richie leave, or why did Billy not? Billy and I both, I just needed to do something else. We had a long break. I wanted to do the studio. I wanted to have a family. You know, I just wanted to do something else. I never said I'm quitting. He never said you're fired. You know, it was just one of these things. And I totally love Billy to death. I really do. I love that's the reason why we're having this interview today, this podcast, because of Billy. You know, I did other stuff, but really was a big turning point for me. And I am so grateful of being on those records, you know. So it's been a great run. So there was never, and then when you were working at the studio, he came back. We did the River Dreams there. We did the classical record we did there.
Yeah.
So, and he loved to come and hang out with us.
And the whole, like, I remember the first time I met him, he when you kind of let him know how my name was spelled, and he was like, Doug, D-U-G.
Right.
Yeah, if my name was Doug, I'd spell it that way too.
That's exactly like it too, man. That was right.
And it's so interesting. And one of the things that's so, I think I was having this conversation with Shane Keister as well, is what, like, for us, like we're almost like war buddies, like in the trenches. We know what it was like, and then you obviously with the band and all of that. But music, it's like that, those memes, like, you know, what my friends think I do, what my parents think I do, what, you know, the public think I do, and then like what I really do. And the glamour for me has been more of the relationships. It's not necessarily been, oh, you know, the red carpety things and the big shows. Like it's more the relationships. And to me, that's always been the most powerful, because being in a studio, making a record is not glamorous. It's it's a lot of sitting around and, you know, like editing and practicing, or, you know, punching stuff in. There's a lot of stuff in making a record that isn't what it looks like.
That's exactly right. But anything good is not going to be easy. You know,
Right.
If you think it's just add water, stir, mix, then everybody would do it, and everybody have a hit record. It takes the hard work. It takes you know, we've said this in the studio, the building of the house, from the dirt to the foundation, to the pilings, to the walls, to the paint at the very end. It's all that together, and it takes hard work to put all that together.
Yeah. So now, as we move forward, you're crushing it with you've overcome your cancer. You've crushed it. You're kind of reinvented. You've a new appreciation for life, and like everything is rocking along. You're out there touring. We're connecting. You go see Dan. Like people are coming out of the woodwork to come see you, and then bam, COVID.
No.
So then now you've got all this momentum, you have this power, you've overcome cancer, you've overcome things out of your control, and then this happens. What goes through your mind when, you know, like you're basically the shows are canceled?
There's a number of metaphors to use, you know. What we're doing is just waiting for the green light. You know, I practice every day. If you remember correctly, I still do that every day at night. I go back to the studio and practice. I've been called by the governor to do my New York State of Mind version. I got called by the Long Island Music Hall of Fame to do Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. And I've been doing a lot of remote saxophone solos for people and mixes. We're working with this guy, Jimmy Lee Hook in Florida of Liberty, played drums on. I played saxophone on. My man Frosty played trumpet. Julio played guitar. So I've been doing that as much as I can. But there's nothing, it's like we said 45 minutes ago, there's nothing like being in a room with everybody or being on stage with everybody. And I really miss that. So we're vigilant. I'm masked and I have gloves, and that's how I do it. I go out every day with my mask and my gloves. Gloves are, you know, depending on what I'm doing, but definitely my mask every day. And we're just waiting for the green light. You know, I think 2020 has been written off pretty much. You know, I don't think we're doing anything till next year. We've been canceled up to New Year's Eve already.
Wow.
Yeah.
And have you rescheduled? Like, how has the agents, the venues, how are they like positioning? Are you feeling like they're eager, or are they like, oh, I don't know?
They're very eager because their business is at jeopardy as well. There's a couple of different things we're doing. Many of them are just saying it's not going to happen this year. Let's take this July date, do it in 2021. So we just lost this year, and we're doing it again next year. Some of them that we might get back before COVID is over is that hypothetically, let's say we play a 1,000-seat theater place, right? but you can only put 500 people in it. So what we're doing is 2 shows.
Oh, great.
So no more money involved, just more work, but it's better than no work, right? So we're going with that. If some of the promoters are doing that, we're going to oblige by that procedure, where we'll do a 4 o'clock show for 500 people and then an 8 o'clock show for 500 people. Shorten the show a little bit, you know. When I do my set list, it's like 2 hours.
Right.
2 hours sets. So I'll do like maybe an hour, hour and 20, hour and 15, and then take a break and do another show.
Oh, and I also want to, you know, for people who haven't seen you guys, your shows are high energy. It's not like they're, you know, you're just guys just sitting there playing the songs. It's like you guys are in it. It is like a badass show. That's
the reason why people are coming out to see us. We're playing this music like we did back in the 70s and 80s, you know, and we can't help ourselves. Liberty and I can't help ourselves. We're just doing that, you know, and the band gets it from us, from Liberty, Russ, and myself. So it is that, and we're playing the songs in the same keys and doing the same tempos as we did back in the day. Billy has recognized this, and Billy loves it. Billy loves our band. Billy loves the Lords. So
well, of course it was. Yeah, I'm sure it's got to be like bittersweet for him, because like I'm sure there's you know, I don't want to put too much hope and dreams out there, but like reunion, I would imagine that would be pretty amazing for everybody, and the magic that would be present would be insane.
It's up to all of us. I think it's inevitable that we should, because it's just the love of the music and the love of the fans that have been so loyal to us for 40-something years. And for them to see us play together, I think would be absolutely fantastic. And maybe not a full 2-hour show. Let them see us do 3 songs together and hug each other. Yeah, show the solidarity that we have given you this music and you have given back to us your loyalty. So it's got to be right. You know, it's in God's hands. It's in whatever happens. It can happen. You know, I'm not opposed to it.
What's so powerful, and I don't know if people give it that same level of thought, is your solos, like your signature on those songs, cannot be duplicated. You know, there's that holistic and you know, Lib plays his ass off and all of that, and I'm not minimizing anyone, but the melodies and the passion, it's like another voice in the music, and it's palpable.
It was so good for me because, like we said before, it was a piano player's band, and there were these holes, right? And I filled the holes up with another lyrical instrument.
Yeah.
So I took his melodies and listened to what he was writing, his lyrics, and I played in those holes, in those positions. And there, you know, people can hum those solos 40-something years later.
Verbatim, because they're just so powerful. I will say, like, The Stranger was one of the records, like, me growing up, and it's so weird because there was 2 records that I played like tons of in my, you know, early teens, and it's so crazy how things came full circle. One was The Stranger, so, you know, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, and like all those incredible songs, and then Dee Snider, Stay Hungry.
Oh. Right.
And then how that all came full circle is so bizarre, where like, and it's not, and I'm sure this happens for other people, but it's also happened with me in the personal development, where Tony Robbins is who I was listening to, what made me make the decision to knock on the door at Cove and just be like, I'm going to work here for nothing. And, you know, basically work my way to, you know, to obviously work with you guys. And then to end up going on the road with Tony and to, you know, be, you know, buddies with him. And then some of the other people I listened to, like Marshall Silver, and there's these other personal development guys who now we've become friends and we work together. And that's the power, I think, as well, of being present in and being authentic in who you truly are, and then living it through. Like, I'm sure you got to play with some people that you never maybe would have thought growing up.
Right.
Who were influences for you.
You got to be prepared, and you got to be in it to be in it. You know, you got to be ready. You got to be the guy in the dugout with the bat in the hand, ready to go. And they said, "Get up." You know, I'm ready. You know, and that's what life's about. That's, again, your motivational thing. You've got to be ready. You know, to get that call. You can't be doing this. You got to be ready. You have to have that desire You have to show up. And this is what we've done forever, you know, and for me, since I've been a kid. So it works.
So one of the things I talked to Shane about this, because he had shared a story about how he had played on Kenny Rogers' record, and when they came out on the basic tracks, he was like, I don't know about this one. And the bass player, I forget the bass player's name, was like, no, I think this is a hit. He's like, nah, I don't know. I don't get it. And it was Lucille. Have you ever had any of those situations where you played something or you were part of a record that you either A, thought it was a dud and it blew up, or something else, you're like, this is amazing, and then didn't catch on the way you expected it?
I have the ultimate story about that. Still Rock and Roll, one of Billy's #1 hit records, right?
Yep.
Before my sax solo, and before my sax solo, he says, all right, Rico, right? So now set up for me to play a sax solo, right? He says to me at the recording session, play something that someone's going to remember in 20 years. And I said, what? Are you kidding? Now I'm 20-something years old. I'm going to be 40 years old and I'm going to remember this? I'm not going to, you know, 20 minutes from now. What are you kidding me? You want me to play something? So I had something in my head. And then he said, play something that some people are going to remember in 20 years. So I took what I had in my head, forgot it, and then went in there into the live room and played the solo, one take, the one that you hear in the record.
Wow.
44 years ago, I'm still playing that solo. And at the time I went, oh, come on, man. Still Rock and Roll with me, you know, sax solo, what? 20 years from now? Doesn't make sense, Billy. Made a lot of sense.
Wow. How cool. That, and you know, all the different records that you've done, was there any artists that you had always wanted to work with, and you know, maybe they were influence for you, or you had some admiration for, that you got a chance to work with?
Elton, when I played on the 21 and 23 record, the Little Genie record that he had, the Beach Boys. I mean, Beach Boys were like the Beatles.
Yeah.
I was growing up. I always wanted to play. I mean, play with, where am I going to fit in with the Beach Boys? But Brian Wilson wrote a lot of baritone sax parts,
Yeah.
you know, and there was a lot of horn parts, and, you know, in Kokomo, there was an alto solo, you know. So I had to pinch myself sometimes out on the road with the Beach Boys, and listening to Carl Wilson sing God Only Knows. It was like, God,
wow,
crazy, you know. So that was a big one for me, you know, and I totally enjoyed that.
Is there any artists or someone that you haven't yet worked with that you would like to, or maybe a new and up and coming? Like, where is your mind now as you're listening to music and looking to like next steps?
If you ask my family, and if I were to ask my family, who would you like me to play with? They would all say Bruno Mars.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
And I would love to play with Bruno Mars. I don't think I'd get in his band. You know, I'm not the right shape, size, whatever. But I could play on his record, and I would love to do that. I love Bruno Mars. You know, I loved him from the moment he started playing. He was Prince and James Brown and everybody combined for me. So that would be one. You know, I would like to do that. I would also. I was just talking to a guy who interned at the studio, Andrew Watt, who's producing now the Stones. And he called me 2 days ago saying, I want you to listen to some old Bobby Keys. He's a sax player with the Stones, right? Solos. And we were just going back and listening to old tapes and things like that. And I'd love to play with the Stones. You know, Bobby Keys passed away. I would love to do that. So there you go. Bruno Mars, Stones.
Okay.
I'd be happy.
And those aren't out of the realm of possibility by any stretch. I mean, you're legendary. They're legendary. There's no reason why that shouldn't happen.
Both of them could happen. They really could, you know. So, but
so the Stones are making a record now?
They're taking. I think that they're not making a new record. They're reviewing older stuff that they had.
Okay.
Never got released. So. They're being reviewed. You know, it's more theory than anything else right now.
Okay, fair enough.
Nothing I'm saying about the Stones, I have any credibility to be saying anything about.
No, well, no, but just it would be a great, like, one of the things that I have not yet make happen is, like I would have loved to sing with Taylor.
Really?
I love her voice, and I remember the first time recording her and going, and we were just, it was just doing a demo. We were just hanging out in the studio in Studio B, and she just grabbed a 57 and was just like, and I was like, oh my gosh, you are the real deal. Like this isn't studio magicry. Your voice is bomb. And I never was able to figure out a way to make that happen. I know she's playing again, so it's not completely out of the woods. I'm not singing as much, but I'm looking to bring that back into what I do. We're going to talk to Mark and Laura Wood about maybe figuring out ways to make some cool combinations of, the work I do and they're doing, but that would be fun.
I see the thing with Taylor. She's awesome, man. She's homegrown.
Yeah.
She was with us a long time. We made a lot of records with her, I got to play all those hits for her. It was fun.
Yeah. And again, full Joe Franco, and those are
Joey.
Right. So there's a person, and going to get him on the show as well, someone who is able to adjust during some interesting times when, he was one of the early adopters to technology doing, electronic drums and all that. And as were you, because even though I know your passion for the band and all of that, my first bringing up the Korg M1, into your office, you were still doing some programming, and you were, you didn't kind of go, oh, I'm not going to have anything to do with technology. You did embrace it and still do. You have a great balance of that. And that is really important, I think, instructive in today's world, because I get the feeling that a lot of the challenges we've faced in the music industry and in life in general is going too extreme without looking at the collateral and residual effects on that behavior.
Right. I think it's you can't get around technology. Look at what we're doing right now.
Yep.
All right. You can't get around it. I have to embrace it somehow. To stay in business, in the music business, I have to embrace it. I've said this often to people. What technology is, we're all kind of like at this big plug that's plugged into the wall. We're all plugged into this with our devices, our instruments, our Pro Tools, our Cubase, our Ableton project, profiling, things like Logic Pro, things. Mm-hmm. They're all connected to the wall, right? You pull that plug out, everybody goes, right? Yeah. Saxophone, I still play. I can play them in the dark. I'll play exactly the same way I did 44 years ago for the Still Rock and Roll solo as I'll do right now, So I still have that, and I know no one's going to ever take that away from me, but I have to be plugged in. Got to be plugged in. This world is that, I have a cell phone. I have a computer. We have digital recordings. We have digital lifestyles. I have GPS on my car. It's just, we are plugged in. So you do have to embrace it.
I'm going to share something I kind of misbehaved the other day, and it made me think of you. So we were, like many people, I'm sure, cleaning out their garages, and we have all this spare time and so forth. So I was, just getting something. We had a bunch of stuff to drop off at Goodwill. So I pull up to Goodwill and I drop it all off, and on the side there where everyone's dropped their stuff off, there's a case. And I'm like, oh, look, I wonder if that's in there. It had a little Y on it. And I'm like, huh. And I just open it up real quick, and I'm like, nope, it's in there. And I kind of put it in my car after I unloaded everything. So I didn't buy it. I borrowed it because someone else gave it away too. So I was just helping out. And it's a Yamaha saxophone, a tenor sax that is in like pristine, like it's in great condition. I mean, I don't know if it's a student model or anything like that, but
it's worth money.
Yeah, well, I figure I might as well, learn a little bit about it and just have fun and live vicariously through you to some extent. But it just made me think of you when I picked that up and I opened it up at home and I told Heidi, I'm like, this is kind of weird that I did that. But we give so much away. We buy so much, there. So I didn't feel super, super bad about it. I felt it was God kind of going, hey, look at that.
Don't feel bad about it. What if it ended up in the trash and it got in the garbage compactor and it got crushed and life would have been over? You just gave it a new life, bro.
Right. And maybe Ellie will pick it up. She's super.
Yeah.
She's 5. Now, actually, here, let me ask you like music question, like with Aaron. So Aaron is clearly, really talented and so forth. Was he always musical? And like, when did you notice some talents and how did you nurture it?
He was always talented. He was a year and a half old. He did his first recording session at Cove when the Neve was in the Studio A.
Okay.
And he did Tinkle Tinkle Little Star.
Ah, there you go.
And he sang it and he came running into the control room, the path, right? Mm-hmm. He sat down at the console. I have a picture of this. He grabbed the fader and he made himself louder.
There you go.
Beginning of what he's doing. He always was like that. Always like that. Always very musical. Extremely, no matter what, knowing lyrics, playing instruments. And now he's heavy into technology too. He's got all of that really together. But he's being sought after because he also knows music. He also can play music like what I do,
Mm-hmm.
But he's more technically advanced than I am. So
awesome.
At a year and a half old, and I'm not joking, Doug. He was a year and a half old. We saw it in him. At kindergarten, he did an impersonation of Elvis Presley, which was pretty good.
All right, so we have hope. Ellie she's 5, and she has like perfect intonation. Like,
really?
It's amazing. Like crazy. Like she can change keys, and now she's doing devices. Like she's going like, hey, how you doing? Like she mimics, and she's actually. And I thought it was kind of like at first, like every father, like, oh, my kid's so brilliant, kind of thing. But then when I see other kids, they have no intonation, they have no sense of melody or time, and it's amazing. So I'm hopeful.
Just bump her down that road. She'll tell you which direction she wants to go. But and that's what we did with Aaron.
Yeah.
I tried to put a clarinet in his hand and he spit it out. I tried a saxophone, he dropped it. I put a guitar in his hand and he was like, "Whoa!
Oh, there you go.
This is interesting." So,
okay, so yeah, we'll do that. I mean, we have drums, we have guitars all over the place, and percussion instruments, and she's really just at the moment singing and dancing. That's her big thing. But it's pretty crazy. Like when she picks up a melody, she confuses the words to some extent, but it's pretty nuts how in tune she is, which is rare.
Mariah Carey did that too once, didn't she? Confuse the words.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But follow her lead, bro. I mean, it's amazing, and young kids these days, and I often do. I've been doing a lot of these Zoom things with kids at school, doing these master classes.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have kids learning music and learning instruments and learning pitch, because now young divas come into the studio and they can't sing, they don't know pitch. We fix it,
right.
But it'd be nice if we can actually sing in tune and play in time. What a concept.
Absolutely. So where do you see now the future of music and the way records are being made? And while you're, obviously Cove is open, Cove City Sound Studio is still open and rocking. What do you see as the future, and how can we support the continued making of incredible music?
It's hard because music is music, and then it's entertainment. A lot of the stuff that these young people are getting, they're being entertained. But what are they being entertained with? It's what we're jamming down their throats, which is this digital format. So, like going back to your daughter, is that is that you should put an instrument in their hands, you know. So if we do more of that, there'll be more music maybe coming down in the next generation. It depends on what people want musically, you know.
Yeah.
You could buy a beat off the internet and you could rap to it, and you could mix it all in an hour to 2 hours and be done with it. Okay.
Right.
It's just what it is. Everybody can do that. Anyone can do that. You know, I mean, you can just do it. It's just available. So what do I see? Well, hopefully that there are songs with intros and choruses, pre-choruses, verses, storytelling, you know, stuff. Why I'm here talking to you is because of music that had stories, it had lyrics, it had melodies. You know, I don't know what's going to happen in the next 20, 30, 40 years, who we're going to be listening to. You know, if you take an artist now, maybe it'll be Billie Eilish. I happen to like Billie Eilish, you know. Will it be her, or will it be Cardi B? You know, who are we giving to these younger kids to listen to? What are we giving them? So what do I see? I see what we give them is what they'll nurture.
So interesting. So what were you playing Aaron when he was growing up? Like, and what was his influences? Was it contemporary for you, or was it even oldies for you?
It was a little of both. From the Beatles to bands like Jellyfish. If you know Jellyfish, he was going deep. He was on the road with the Beach Boys with us.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up with Billy Joel music.
Of course.
So he was listening to a lot of, I'm spacing on, I'm trying to remember what was playing in our house when he was around, but he listened to a lot of different types of music, you know. He loved Etta James. He liked, you know, singers that really sang. He also liked Green Day.
And it was that stuff that he turned you on to as he was growing up? What did he bring to you and go, hey?
Yeah, a little of both, you know. The Chili Peppers I was liking, and he jumped into them and liked them. So there was a lot of bands that you know, the grunge era he liked. So he was attached to a lot of it. But being in my family, we'd still have Stan Getz records played, you know, and jazz, right, and pop music back then, which was the Beach Boys and Billy and the Bee Gees and all that stuff. So it was he listened to a lot. He was in a good part of his life with some good listening.
For sure. And you know, what a gift. And obviously he's run with it, is to be there to also see how the hot dog is made.
Right.
To really be part of all sides of it, you know, which I think is really important. And that's the balance, I guess, that I was getting at earlier as well, to kind of have an appreciation of all aspects of it. It was more than just the performance and entertainment. It was down to the writing of it, the creating of it, the editing of it, even to the marketing, the promotion of it. Like, there's just so much that goes into this experience that so few people actually understand or know about.
Right. I think we have to be careful, and all you young viewers out there, people, is that anyone can go to a pro audio store and buy the gear. You know, anyone can buy a crack of Pro Tools or Ableton, Logic, whatever the format. But it's the user, it's the person behind the screen that's going to make this music. You know, so, and it's important of that, and not get hung up on all this technology. You still got to get the antennas right and get this music and this feeling inside of you. You know.
Well, true story. This was kind of the nail in my coffin in relationship with music. Is there was a band that had produced their first record on Wind Up, and then the second that they got dropped, and this was now where all the technology was getting out of hand and all that, and the manager went back to the label like, no, give us another shot, blah 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 stuff, and they said, all right, tell you what. Don't pay Doug. Don't hire Doug. Because I made like 40 or 50 grand on that record. They're like, we're going to give you $40,000. Don't hire anybody. Buy a Pro Tools rig. Make as many songs as you want. And then bring us a record, and then when we feel we've got a record's worth of, you know, an album's worth of material, then we'll consider releasing it. And then this way we're not spending, you know, 300 grand that we did on the last record. We're not going to do all that. And of course, at first, the artists love it because they could be prolific, they could try stuff out, they can, if they have any sort of technical savvy, they could be creative in ways and just wake up inspired. So at first it seems like a great idea, but it didn't obviously pan out. And then I was like, oh, this is the writing on the wall. I see where this is going.
Why do I remember this? I remember this story.
Because I shared it to you when it happened. It was like, I think I even came to you when like we were looking at, like, I was just figuring stuff out, and I was like, what's going on? Like, how are you doing? Is there any opportunity here? Because, you know, out in the real world, they're not paying anymore.
Right. So, are we allowed to say what band it was?
Yeah, it was Seven Wiser.
Oh, right. Right.
So we did the first record.
Yes. Yes.
We did the first record at Cove, and then Cove and that place in Hempstead. We did it in a few different places.
Yeah. Ooh. I forgot the name of them.
Forget as well. But so then the record came out, didn't do so well. The management went back and argued for another shot, and they were like, yeah, we're giving you 40 grand.
Now it's like everybody's got a rig.
Yeah.
No budgets, and everybody's releasing everything on Friday, you know?
Yeah.
50,000 songs got released on Friday, you know? It's just, who released them? What was the course? Nobody knows. It's just,
and then the streaming technology now with Spotify and iTunes and all of that changed the whole dynamic. So it's really interesting, especially when COVID happened, watching like some of our friends, Tony Harnell, Randy Jackson, like those guys I'm still in contact with. They were just putting on concerts in their house and like kind of going, hey, like tip jars. It was almost like they were, you know, like you might as well have had a guitar case open in front of them. Because they're just all
monetizing over the internet.
Yeah,
that donate button. Yeah,
got to figure it out. So I guess the next technology I'm wondering, and I know it's in the workings, I'm sure, is the ability to play live remotely.
I've been doing that. I've been doing that.
And how's that working? Like, as far as I guess to get in a lot of bandwidth, like is there any delay that you are dealing with?
With some of the gear, you can get it in real time. There is a delay. It really sucks, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
But it can be done. Again, let's go back to I have to embrace it. Otherwise, you don't get a call to do it. I'm playing live to tracks and being videotaped, and then they add that track to their boxes that you see, and then they put all the boxes together, and they through Final Cut or whatever they do, they put it together, and then you have a live.
Yeah, so you actually shared that story with me, the New York State of Mind. I don't know if you want to share that again, you know, because that was amazing. When I watched that, I was like, oh, this is just badass.
What we did was, I think the hardest thing, Doug, is the latency, you know, trying to get everybody to play together, and whoever's device, if you're trying to do this with someone who has an iPhone 5, you're in trouble. You know,
right.
Or if they still have a flip phone, you're in trouble. So what I did was with New York State of Mind, when I got a call to do that for the pandemic, I had a version on my record of New York State of Mind that I edited down to 3 or 4 minutes, right? Did a monologue up front saying what I wanted to say about the pandemic and all the people, the doctors and the nurses and the governor and the first responders, the police, yada, yada. And then I gave that edit to all the guys that played on that record. And I said, learn the part. You played it, it's just now edited. So they all learned the part, they all filmed it, they gave it to me, we put it in Final Cut, and it was the same guys that played on it. They played their same parts over again with shorter versions. So it was really a live recording, but I just edited it together.
Right. And that was huge. I know you said it got like 1.9 million views or something. The last looked or something crazy. It's great.
I don't know how big it got. My record got 1.9 million. The video, I'm not sure that what I just did. It got amazing reviews, and And the fact is, it hit a lot of people. And I think, out of all the people that I played, I think I made a handful of people happy and helped them get through this pandemic when it was needed.
Well, and that, when I look back at and how I made the transition into speaking and doing what I do, is when I looked at music and why I did the music was exactly what you just shared. Like, man, if I could participate in the transformation of someone's mood, their energy, if I could just help distract them for a little bit, or, be played at a wedding and give them an opportunity, whether it be a song or if I'm on the road and I'm playing live for a couple hours, like if I could have that moment and participate in that, to me, it's a spiritual experience. That's huge. And then that's how I transitioned into speaking. So that's what I do. It's the exact same experience, helping transform a moment, help change their emotional state. Now it's with a little more focus where I'm guiding them somewhere, because now we can discuss an outcome where it's not just I want to, escape for a little bit with music, or like there's a little more of a focus, but it's the exact same thing. And what you just shared is beautiful. That's, I think, ultimately why most musicians are able to do what they do, because they cherish those moments to know that they had a connection on a deep level.
When you go to work, when I go to work, we put smiles on people's faces. What a concept, bro.
I couldn't believe when I was even doing the music, I was like, people pay me for this?
Yeah. People have joked with me, so when am I going to retire? I said, I'll retire when I get a job first. Because if I retire, I'll probably take up the saxophone and play it for a hobby. Oh, wait. I'm already doing that, Yeah. So it's I'm living this passion that I have. And when I do it and I close my eyes and I play, and anyone who wants to go to YouTube and look at this video that I did, you'll see what we're doing. You'll see those players, and it's a wonderful moment. It's a gift from God. It's just a gift, and we're just giving it back. And then the audience gives it back to us. We do more.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that was, such a gift to be able to, all those years working with you and those opportunities that you would even come in, or if I worked with you guys and, Julio would come in, or, Mitch, or any of the guys that would come in and play, and Lib. It was just such an amazing experience to have that energy and be part of capturing it and having whatever, little role I played in the variety of experiences was, it's a game changer. It really is some of my proudest moments. And my only lament is we didn't have these around to take, or you can't see it, the phones with cameras on them. So I have very little documentation, pictures or videos of those experiences.
And I tell you something that's almost better, because if there was cell phones at Woodstock wouldn't be as cool.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we have this vision of what it was like. There was documentation, but there wasn't, right. And everybody's, now no matter what you do, you can take a photo of it or some video of it. And it's not cool because everybody can do that, right?
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
When you talk about somebody who's at Woodstock, they'll tell you what it was like. And they can't show you. So it's okay. You and I know what it was like back at Cove back in those days.
Yep.
And it's our interpretation. And we've got to, as you as a motivational speaker, you've got to talk to people and relate to them. Tell them that story.
I do. It's a huge part of.
It's better than going, hey, just check this out.
It's a video, yeah. Well, and I think part of it is just like looking back, like to show Ellie, like I could tell her the stories, but to have a picture of it. Like I remember, like I had, when I started there, really long hair. I had the long, the beard. Yeah. And I remember what was his name? From Cheap Trick, the guitarist.
Rick.
Yeah.
Rick. What was his last name? Oh my God. Rick something.
Yeah. Rick. So like his was way longer than mine, and like he had keys in it and stuff. And he's like, you call that a beard? I'm like,
right.
But like Bob Cadway would be like, oh, you look really crazy, but you're not. You're nice. So,
But telling the story to your family is just as good, man.
Of course.
They're watching you tell the story.
Yeah.
Rather than you sitting back and picking your nose and showing them a video of it, she'll get it. They'll get it.
Of course.
I like that part.
Yeah, and again, that's what I shared. The some of my fondest memories of being a human. Where I suppose a good 8-10 years, I think, that I worked at the studio. And man, I hate to, like, you were part of a huge era of my life. I mean, my first marriage, my first house, my, like first, like all of some of the firsts in my life, it's sad, well, I'm way, way, way happier and I have the most amazing wife and family now. So that's, not lamenting on that, but just you're part of, you're at our wedding. You were like, it was just, we were family that, we're still together in our own ways, which is.
And will ever be, because we have those ties.
Right. Exactly.
When I saw Dan Hetzel out on the road, it was like, oh, God, it was freaking awesome, And I saw Joey Franco a couple of years ago.
Yep. Oh yeah, we came together to I don't know if you saw him other times too, but yeah, Joey lives. He's got a place, about half hour north of me.
Right. So there'll be those great times will be forever, and we can only share them. We know, like the stories we're talking about, Billy with Liberty and Doug and Billy and Russell. I have those stories. No one has a cell phone and say, well, I saw it. I was there. No, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
We had lunch that day. We had Chinese food that day,
And yeah, I guess it's so interesting when you talk about technology and how we all adjust to it is the way we tell our stories and the power of that. And hopefully, the music will still always be a way to share stories and to express ourselves and to capture moments, and although they change, I think as we can adjust to technology and so forth, perhaps we can still maintain the authenticity and that connection to God, to the higher power, whatever language people like to use. But that, I think, is what happens when people get together and it's prayer. Music is prayer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Of which I got a brand new client, a young client tonight at the studio. I've got to get back to soon. So they're starting in about a half hour. But
okay, yeah.
Give me a question, give me something, and so we can say that we did this. Is there anything else that you would like to ask me? That we're going to talk after this. I'm going to call you later, okay?
We'll talk about that. What we talked about earlier, because you did so much for me, and you gave me so many opportunities. My first recording with Antigone Rising, and you've just been a brother for so much. So obviously, I want to support you in any way possible. Really, at this point, how could someone get in touch with Cove City to learn more about like really making great music and the gift, the opportunity, the history of that studio is incredible. And just to be able to like recording there is like going to Abbey Road at this point, because so much has been done in that studio and it's still there and still functioning, which is amazing.
Right. We're very visible, through the internet. Cove City Sound Studio is a website. I'm visible too. You can find me there all the time. It's the same phone number for 37 years, So, and we have somebody that administers the website. You go to the website, contact anybody there. Our names are up there, and come for a tour. Come walk through the place. Come see it. It's still very much the same vibe, smell. Feeling.
Yeah, the record's still on the wall. Yeah.
All those records that you worked on are there.
So I don't know if I'm sure you know the story, and we'll leave with just this. The first time I walked into that studio I was about 15 years old. Studio B was a tech room. So
right.
So this has got to be like 85.
Right.
And my mom's boyfriend at the time knew whoever was the tech at that time. And it was like, oh, and I was into music. I always wanted, that was definitely something I was always going to be doing. And she's like, oh, well, why don't I, my Harold knows this guy at the studio. So we go in there, go up the stairs, so the big, the stairs into there. We open the door and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So he's showing me the tech room, and we're in the lounge, and he's like, we can't go in to Studio A because Dee Snider, Howard Stern, Leslie West, and Robin are all in there. And, we just can't go in because they're working. So we're like, okay, that's cool. So I'm in the lounge, and then Dee comes out, and he starts walking down the hallway to towards the bathroom or whatever. And then the guy goes, "Oh yeah, there's D." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I poke my head around the lounge, the doorway, and D sees me, and he's like, "Who the F are you?" And I'm like,
You're 15 years old?
Yeah. And he's like, "What the F are you doing here?" And I'm like, humana. And then he goes, "David!" And he starts stomping up the stairs and he goes, "David, when I say lockout, I mean lockout. There's an effing kid down there. Get him the F out of here." And the guy was like, "Oh, we got to go, get you out of here." And that was the first time I met D in person from that distance.
I hope you did remind him that story, did you?
I did.
Did you remember?
Yeah, no, he didn't really remember. But I was like, D, obviously you were a dick. And he was like, "Well, I was not really that nice back then, but you might have been disappointed if you realized that I was a nice guy back then." And I'm like, I don't know.
We were working with Howard Stern doing, I think, Pig Vomit or something back then, his band.
Yep.
Howard, all those guys were in there. That was D back then. He's a different person now. We all are different,
Well, and D was very vulnerable when he was on the show last week, and he was like, "Man, you met me. I was on job number 2." He's like, I had a job, and I had to start over. And he goes, "There was a time when I was like hanging posters, and I was at a call center, and someone was like, 'Hey, aren't you D. Snyder?' And he's like, 'No, I just look like him.'"
Yeah.
So we've been around.
Great memories. And David, of course, David Barrett.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I randomly saw BJ said hey and sends her love, and that was basically celebrating David and BJ connecting during those times and so forth.
They met because of the studio, and I gave them their wedding at the Grand Cafe next door, which is the Metropolitan now. So I gave them their wedding in that building.
Oh, that is so beautiful.
One of my first secretaries.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm going to put in the descriptions, the website, the phone number, everything, so that people can get in touch. Have an amazing time tonight, and thank you so much for sharing. Not only like your time now, but also all the years that I was there and the opportunities and really the such a blessing and a beautiful time of my life. And I truly love you and appreciate you so much.
I love you too, dearly, and it was a great time, and it always will be, man. We got no place to go.
Yeah, well, let's find a way to make some more happen.
All right,
man. God bless. Have fun tonight, brother.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. See you then.